recording and AMA has started. So, let's just have everybody introduce yourselves, starting with Kilo and making our way over.
Yo, Kilowatt, programmer with Void Interactive.
Nice. I can't see my my name on the list, so if it's fine, I'll just hop on board. My name is Gerard. I'm ARG, and I'm basically the one that does character 3D models or helps with like the gear sets of like our characters and now a lot of the side of the civilian stuff.
All right, Mr. Pixel.
Yeah, I'm DeadPixel. I'm a UI UX designer, and I also help with some gameplay experience design.
And then Music Man Zach.
Hey, I'm Zach, audio director / composer for Ron. Very happy to see everyone starting to kind of round themselves in here. It's gonna be a good one.
Hey guys, my name is Mark. I'm the art director on the project and one of the core content creators for the environments as well.
All right, and if you give me a very quick second.
Good job, everyone. Good AMA. Let's do this.
We're done.
That's it.
And then we have
Jules.
Hey,
And Julio's here.
Mr. Void.
Yep, we have
Hello.
Julio, Jules.
hello.
You just happened to pop in right at
Just
the
in
end of
time to
introductions.
introduce yourself.
Yep, right at the end of introductions.
Okay. Hey, good morning, good evening, good whatever, wherever you are. I'm Julio Rodriguez, CEO of Void Interactive. Happy to join. I might sound a bit groggy. I've been traveling for the last 15 hours. Just got off a plane, so forgive the bit of grogginess, but here I am.
Nice. Are you this side of the pond now, Julio?
No, it depends which pond you're talking about.
Are you in the European area at the moment?
Yeah, I'm in Croatia for the Reboot video game conference. Yeah.
Ooh,
Nice.
that's awesome.
All right. Well, I guess if you're
Hope
on
any Strolls
the
isn't far behind.
on the
I
groggy
think
end.
Strolls is traveling. No.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
that's what I thought as well.
Yeah, he's meant to join me here. I think he's still on a plane.
Yeah, I think what happened was he saw the time and went, "Yeah, I can do that," and then didn't take into the fact that when he's traveling on a plane, the time zones are changing.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, dude, that's rough. Yeah,
That's
that would
honestly
be a
what I'm
rough one
assuming
to
happened.
figure out.
But
Yeah,
I guess if
timing
that's the
anyways.
case, we'll front load.
Yeah, so awesome to see so many people turning into the chat. We're at 130, going up 40, 150. Oh,
Wait,
wow.
hey, you jinxed it.
Whoa.
There you go. It keeps
All right.
more. That's
Well,
awesome.
thanks so much for coming on board to our AMA. Yeah, it's always fantastic to talk to everyone and sort of like, it allows us to share our creative thoughts with you guys and, just kind of like really, just like interact. And, it means a lot that everyone's turning up to have a bit chat with us.
All right, and I guess to try and keep things a little easy on
This is really nice.
on
Yeah,
Mr.
people
change
Julio,
their mind.
You
we'll
scared them
front
away, man.
load our
Called them out.
front load our questions from you.
It's definitely interesting being able to interact with the community and all the people into this. It's also kind of humbling because like I began a lot of this as a modder for the community itself. So it's funny to be on the other side now. It's also another cool experience to have.
Excellent. So can just fill me in. So we will just take questions, or can you
Son of a bitch.
just sort of the etiquette or the housekeeping? How are we going to manage this event?
Table, no questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, can people hear me now?
There he is.
Yeah.
Okay, that was weird.
Oh man, I should have said no.
I started talking and people couldn't hear me. Okay, so I guess in respect of Mr. Julio feeling groggy, we'll start off with we'll start off with him and give him a chance to kind of sit back for the rest of the AMA and kind of pop in whenever he feels he's got something to add. How's that sound?
Oh, that's fine. I'm happy to contribute and answer any questions. Absolutely.
All right. I guess the first question that might have some interesting stories around it is how did you meet Sterling and how did Void become a thing?
All right. I'm gonna bore the guys who've heard the story like 3 or 4 times, but happy to share the story. So way back when, before I became involved with the guys, with 3 guys, 1 young guy from New Zealand, 2 young guys from Australia. They met playing DayZ. They became friends. They were 14, 18, 19 years old. And somehow they sparked this magical friendship, And in Australia, you don't often get like significant traumatic events. And back in, I think it was 2014, there was an event called the Sydney Siege. So at Olymp Cafes, some organization had taken some hostages, and it was quite traumatic for the Australian public. And as I remember, Sterling said that he was quite impressed. He was like 13 or 14 at the time by that event. And so it compounded with other experiences that he had in video games. Plus now there's this real life event that kept sort of resonating in his head. So fast forward a few years, he approached his 2 buddies and said, "Hey, we should make a video game. We should make a video game about SWAT." And okay, let's do it. So off they go. These 3 friends, like I said, 2 Australians and 1 Kiwi, as we call New Zealanders. Started building a SWAT-based video game. At the time, they titled it Code 10. And as I've been told the story, they worked on it for over a year, just tinkering around. Both Sterling and the other colleague from Australia had some experience producing 3D art and other type of support things for games like Verdun or Days of War and things of that nature. And the guy from New Zealand knew programming and coding and was a really avid gamer, but never had built a video game before. But anyway, they had the vision. They said, "Yep, let's build this game." And they went for it. So they tinkered for about a year, as I understand it, maybe over a year. And then took a step back or 2 step back and looked at the game and said, "Wow, this is complete rubbish. Let's chuck it away and let's start all over again." And so they did, and they started under the new title, Ready or Not. So here they go. They begin to work on Ready or Not. And I think they've progressed it maybe a month or 2, as I recall. And that's when my involvement sort of, when I come into the picture. So my background is not in video games. My background is in operational management, business management, those sorts of things. I had moved to New Zealand back in 2012 with my family for an executive role at a large food company. And this one day I'm working at my office and I had problems with my computer, the glitches, the menus won't work or whatever. So you do what you do. You call 1-800 IT, "Hey guys, come fix my computer." And so this young guy shows up, and normally you just step aside, tell them what the problem is, and they fix your kit and off they go. But when this guy walked in, and I made fun of him, and he said no, he kind of says no, but my impression was he looked a bit pale skinned. He walked a little funny. Looked like a real computer geek, like somebody who could really use a friend. And so I took it. I said, "Hey, let's have a chat." So we started having a friendly conversation, and he started to tell me about his hobbies. He said, "Oh, I like to longboard and I like to play video games. And in fact, I'm building a video game with a couple of friends from Australia." And that was really interesting to me. I like video games. I had not been in the video games industry, but I really like video games, avid player of Age of Empires, and those sorts of strategy games. Of course, I played on the Wii a lot with my kids. And so Ryan, or Ryro NZ, as people know him on the Discord, began to tell me about this game, which was a SWAT-based game. And instantly, it had appeal for me because, as I've shared with some of you, in my family too, we had quite a significant event that involved, police and a shooting. For those who don't know, back in 1984, so a very long time ago, I was about 12 at the time, and there was a mass shooting at a McDonald's restaurant in San Ysidro, California. So a gunman walked in with a pistol, a long rifle, and a Uzi machine gun, and basically just started killing people, shooting people. And my cousin, my first cousin, was working at that restaurant at the time. And she, her and a colleague managed to scurry to the back of the restaurant and hide inside of a closet while they could hear the gunshots and the screaming and all the calamity and chaos that was happening. Quite traumatic, as you can imagine, and us and the whole family just glued to television, basically watching what was unfolding at this McDonald's restaurant. And luckily, my cousin survived the ordeal. Survived it from not dying, but didn't survive the emotional and psychological effects of being involved in an event like that. So some of her friends died that day. She heard agony and screaming and then she saw, of course, a lot of carnage and blood as she was being walked out of the restaurant. And it was ultimately a SWAT police sniper that took out the gunman in that instance. But very traumatic event, was on TV. And then for many years to come, sadly, similar events happen. In particular, in the United States, you see these things, pop up on the 8 o'clock, the 10 o'clock, whatever, the news cycles. And it's delivered to you as entertainment almost, and you see on the newsreel, oh, there's been a shooting here, or been a shooting there, or there's been this event. And you can only see it, and you suffer almost anxiety because you can't do anything about it. You just kind of witness it, but you sit there helpless to do anything about it. So just fast forward to that moment when Ryan told me about this video game that puts you in the boots of a SWAT officer, and you get engaged in the event, and to some degree have an impact on it. It captivated me. So we finished the conversation. He told me about the concept for the game. He moved on with his day. After that, I did quite a bit of research on video games industry, on this kind of video game. And I also did some research on Ryro. And everything was like, oh, wow, great industry, a lot of growth. It does look like there's room for a game like Ready or Not, given, there's legacy games, but nobody's really been working much in that space for a while. And then I asked around about Ryan. Oh, yeah, he's a genius. He's the best IT guy we've ever had. He can solve any problem. And it gave me confidence. So I called him back, and he come to my office, and I said, hey, Ryan, what's it going to take for you to finish this video game. And time and money. And then that's when I popped the question. I didn't quite get on my knees or anything, but I said, I've got an idea for you, Ryan. Why don't you quit your job? I'll pay your salary and we could finish this game together. And his jaw sort of dropped and he's, what? You're joking, right? He thought I was just kidding around, but I wasn't. I was dead serious. I said, no, I'm serious. You could quit your job today, pay your salary, and we'll finish this game together. And then he suggests, well, what about my buddies? And these were his two friends in Australia. So we had a phone call later, a couple of weeks after that. I flew Ryan to Melbourne, Australia. We had about a week together there in downtown. And after that week was concluded, we agreed to formally, form this business together where I would fund these three budding guys, that wanted to build this game, and I would take care of everything else, legal, contracts, marketing, office, janitorial, you name it, everything that I needed to do to make sure that they could have all the mental space and resources to just work on the game. So that was sort of the beginning when I first met Sterling. So Ryan and I went to Melbourne. We knocked on the door, and they opened the door, and it was great because even though Roro and Sterls and other friends had been collaborating on this video game already for a number of years and playing together, they actually had never seen each other. They only had collaborated on, through chat channels and stuff like that. So it was pretty special, pretty cool that day, and then just that time that we spent together. And I felt, other than coming to just an agreement, it felt pretty special to me. I felt like, wow, these are really special guys. They have a real passion and a vision for it, and I can back this. So it was sort of a match made in heaven, you could say. And that was the beginning of. Like I said, they had already been working on it, but then that became sort of the official beginning of Void Interactive from a business point of view. Is that enough info or too much, Kaminsky?
Nah, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Have I?
I'll take that as
I
too
think
much.
we've lost him again.
Yeah. You overdid it, Jules.
Overwhelmed
Okay.
him. No, that was awesome. Yeah, really,
No,
really
that's
awesome
great.
stuff.
I'd say just from everything on my interactions with Jules, I'm not surprised that it all started because Jules just saw a guy and he was like, I want to be this guy's friend. That's pretty cool.
That's so crazy. I'm sorry. Like I've been working with the company for this long, and I never had the proper chance to actually meet you, which is funny. But that's not far fetched because I know Sturls obviously, and being how Sturls is, I can totally understand why this whole thing started snowballing down, and that's really cool.
It was quite interesting because at the beginning, I said, well, what's it going to take for you guys to make this game? Well, it'll be the three of us and maybe three more people, maybe an animations guy and someone who can help with sound and lighting, and maybe one or two other people to help with voices and stuff. Okay, so you think maybe 6 to 8 people, and how long? Oh, maybe 18 months, 24 months. And in my business experience, it's like, okay, no way is it gonna. It would it take 8 people. In my mind, I doubled that. Okay, we're gonna need 15 people, and not 24 months. It's probably gonna be 3 years, 3.5 years before we finish this thing. But even we were all kind of naive and kind of young into the industry and didn't really know what it took to make such a complex game. So here we are, 5 years later. And we're still working hard. Now we have quite a significant team, and working and having a load of fun, working on the project. But it was just interesting how far off we were about understanding what it really takes to make a game like this.
Yeah,
Definitely has to be a learning experience as you go as well, not being that crazy into the industry and then seeing all the different stuff from it.
what's the size of Void
Yeah,
at the moment?
that's right.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I think his mic wasn't
Yeah,
working
he
again.
might.
My
Yeah,
computer is not behaving today.
nice.
Uh, well, what I was trying to ask is about how big is Void at the moment?
Wait. Well, we've had some peaks and valleys. So at present, this is just a round number. You guys heard, um, the number that I've got top of my head is that we're about 40 people directly contributing to the game, and we're a 100% virtual company. So we have folks in Canada, United States, France, UK, Ireland, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, and I'm sure I missed a couple more countries. But we've got 40 people directly contributing to the game. And then we have approximately another 20 to 25 that contribute to us through outsourced studios by providing supplements like 3D art and things like that. And then we hire like ad hoc voice actors. But those are not, they might come in, they do a session, and then they go off on their merry way.
Okay. So starting
So
off with
15 estimate was close.
starting off with a lot of juicy information is definitely a good way to start start an AMA like this. Especially since not many people often get the chance to meet like the head of a studio, not like the team lead, but like the actual top of the totem pole, big boss man. So definitely having you here is really cool.
It's cool for me. I mean, I just want to say from the very beginning, I told the guys, we think we have a good game, and that people will want it, but it's important that we always listen to our customers, engage with our customers. What do they think? And we're not going to please everybody because you might pull 100 people into a room and you'll have 100 different opinions, right? So you try to weave through what's the most popular thought or the most popular set of feedback that then you can reincorporate into your game. But nonetheless, I said, for us, put a heap of value on the player, the people that are going to engage with our game. And from the very beginning, like for example, me, I had quite a busy schedule because I had a full-time executive role at a large food company, which was like almost a 60-hour a week job. I was also completing a master's degree at university. And then I'm a father and I have children who want husband and daddy, for a little bit of time. And then I was working as much as I could as well, supporting the game. One of the ways I supported was to answer every email that we got. So I would often stay up, till wee hours. And a lot of email, came in English. Some came in other languages. So I'd use Google Translate to type out an answer and just trying to show that respect. You guys are interested, you're supporting our vision and our game, and we respect that, and we want to be here and be responsive to you. And I know we've not always been super responsive because of the ebbs and flows of production. But yeah, that's definitely for me. It's special to be here with a few hundred people, who are fans of the game. I just love that. So you say it's special for them, but really it's special for me, and for us, for me, and I'm sure for the other guys on the team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Humbly.
Alrighty. So I think we've dogged Jules enough for now. So we'll start with some dev questions. We'll start with Mr. DeadPixel since he didn't take part in the last AMA. A question from username Chrome. How did you decide the balance of the HUD and UI when looking at realism versus giving the player the info they need?
Well, I mean, honestly, it just comes down to the fact that we don't want to only show what's needed. Especially a HUD is merely just a bridge of interfacing what we don't have with real life interactions. So you just try to stay out of the way and only communicate what a player can't otherwise figure out through context. And otherwise, just get out of the way. Keep it clear, keep them immersed. Yeah. There's constantly still work going on with the HUD, and there's more stuff to come. To just almost always the goal is how can we make it less obtrusive, and any ways we could do that, keep people immersed, and ideally not even realizing that they are getting information from the HUD, and just playing through, reacting to the situation.
Kind of just trying to keep that just keep that balance of stuff that you would expect to see on a HUD, but not that would be out of
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, there's a lot of times games will just constantly keep stuff on the HUD that you don't need to know at all times. You don't need to constantly have that in your face. Other times, something that you don't need to know 99% of the time. So why is it there? We try to just reduce that we can have people not staring at a 2D elements and rather focused on the world that's in front of them that they're interacting with. It's a supportive role with the actual HUD itself.
All right.
One thing, I don't know, I'm not the HUD guy, DeadPixel is, but one thing that we've always aimed for is to have sort of a minimalist approach, just to give people the most immersive possible experience and try to make, all the menus and everything intuitive. We still have some work to do, don't we, DeadPixel, but certainly working on it.
Yeah. Especially, a big focus has been loadout and some pre-mission stuff, and as we get through those, it's about refining some of the UI experiences that have existed for quite some time, and just further, like you said, we want to go minimal with the HUD and then just make immersion first. That's the goal.
Yeah, I was on one of my flights. I popped the movie, the one about the blue shirt guy in the video game. I don't know if you guys have seen it, where he's an NPC in a game and he becomes like a live AI in the game.
Oh yeah, new guy. Yeah.
And when he puts on those sunglasses, all of a sudden his whole screen, is completely cluttered with UI, and interactions and things like that, which can be fun, and some people enjoy that type of experience. But yeah, like you've said, for Ready or Not, we wanted to sort of have a clean screen as much as possible so you can really immerse yourself in the gameplay.
Yeah, it really is just to bridge the gap of what you lack from that actually would experience in real life. Since you're limited by mouse, keyboard, and a monitor, we just want to bridge that gap as much as possible with the UI, and otherwise handle all through game interactions.
Alrighty. Then going down our little list to Mr. Mark. Will there be well, I guess a better way to say it, is there a plan to redesign some or all of the maps in the future?
That's a good question. I mean, there's definitely things that we've learned as the games progress. We've all improved as artists, and we've learned what works mechanically from our game and what doesn't work, more importantly. And there's definitely some of the older maps that we kind of realized as of late are not up to the quality that we are now, pure and simple. It's quite a common thing to happen in game dev, especially as the project goes further forward through production. You usually end up with like loads more assets than using art assets as an example in the environments. Usually end up with like a load more stuff that you just never had in the old levels, and they're usually better quality because again you're trying to make things better as you're going forward. So there comes a point where we've kind of like taken a step back and been sort of the kind of the mindset of like, right, if we were to take some of these maps, which ones don't work for us and which ones do? And yeah, we sort of quickly realized that a lot of the earlier ones were still very much against what we want right now. And at the end of the day, like if we're not happy with the levels, we've got no intention of releasing them, because at the end of the day, we want the best player experience we can, both from a visual standpoint and from an experience standpoint. So they have to be good, and some of them weren't. So we are taking it upon ourselves, yes, to redesign or entirely redo some of the maps. I don't necessarily want to say which ones, because I think it's going to be quite fun and exciting when they do pop up. But absolutely. So we won't leave things if we're not happy with them. So yeah, we are absolutely going to dedicate some resources either into fixing the problem or simply just giving you a better, a better level that's along the same kind of theme. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I guess actually on the note of refurbished levels, we did recently have the newsletter talking about the refurbished station. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, so again, under the same sort of like a premise, the game's evolved. We've added so much content. The story and the lore has gotten so vast now, and we really, really wanted to kind of give the player a more, trying to think of the right word, more like a grander experience when it comes to the station. So yeah, we've redesigned, and for all intents and purposes, it's an entirely new station. That also ties into the lore of Los Sueños as well. And yeah, there is all kinds of cool, fun things to find inside of the station itself. There's a lot of lore within the levels that, it's making references to. You'll be able to walk around, test your guns out as you could before. And yeah, hopefully, all in all, it's going to be a nice new addition to the game.
Honestly, that's probably one of the parts I'm looking forward to the most in the updates we got coming down the road, because it looks really, really nice.
Thank you.
Alrighty. I guess since there for Mr. Gerard from Roadkill. Oh, and the last question was from Duke Creaser. In the last AMA, a user had mentioned, had asked about customization, and Sterling had talked about it a little bit. But since you're one of the, one of the individuals that is handling, what sort of equipment is added and, how it looks in the end, do you have anything to say on the sort of like customization options we might have in the future going forward for Gerard?
Okay. So first off, obviously, as we've been working a lot of things, I just wanted to piggyback on what Mark said, where we're kind of like upping the quality of a lot of things that have been in the game as the game evolves. Obviously the quality. You start looking back into a lot of things that you kind of realize, hey, look, this looks one way, but now we have access to all these different people, artists, and things, and then we are working constantly to up all those assets. So the same thing has been slowly happening towards all the equipments and all the things that we have had for our SWAT guys. Like when I remember when I first got brought in, I got tasked with like one minor thing, which was like a anti-stabbing vest, and then slowly been working into like refurbishing like the helmets that we had. We added like new earmuffs and like ear protectors, and slowly working on all these different things. So I'm not too savvy on what cannot be said. I can for sure say that we are working on improving a whole lot of things. Uh, that'll definitely translate into having multiple options and things that people, I hope, enjoy using. Because it is also my belief that our game is what you make of it, and it's kind of like a little dress up, right? Like you want to portray your heroes, or you want to, if you want to, like, I don't know. There's a lot of milsimers out there who like to play as one factions or the others, and I want to cater to that sense to allow people to just use the equipment they want to use in our story, in our universe. So that is definitely something that we're trying to get.
All right. And
Mhm.
since the stuff from the NDA Discord tends to make its way out really quick, a
Mhm.
lot of people were very, very excited to see the work that was being done on the remake for HRT. And I guess as a sub question, HRT win.
That is really the question. I feel bad for and I apologize to the entire community for like teasing everybody and then be like, hey, this and that. I just want to make sure that when we drop it, it's something that's gonna like blow it out of the water and put us out there with like when it comes down to quality. It's also a thank you to the entire community. That's really what it is. We got brought in, see the HRT, see our regular guy. We go, hey, wait a minute, our regular guy is really like sharp. What can we do about it? And then I got voluntold, and I'm happy with it. So I am making it a personal thing to make it shine as much as I can for everyone out there. I'm sure they're gonna enjoy when it pieces together and when it drops. I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna enjoy. We've been working into a lot of things. As we progress and work into more things, newer tech gets developed, and then we're like, oh, wait a minute, but what if? So it's like a little constant rat race. But yeah, I mean, I'm very happy and confident that people are gonna just love it once it drops. Unfortunately, there's just no viable way for me to say the dates or anything yet, but I can guarantee you guys, you'll be happy. I want to make stuff that's worth taking pictures of.
I mean, you've already been doing that, so I guess just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Um, Question for Kilowatt from Astro. Um, how is your progress on improving and just kind of uh, adding more features to the current gore system in Ready or Not?
So this one I'm really kind of happy about because I think what had happened was a couple patches ago we sort of had this, I guess, reverse engineering situation where some people figured out there was like a dismemberment and all this other stuff that's kind of being added. All that stuff is still being worked on. To the people who have seen the current state of it, obviously it's going to be completely different, improved, etc. But yeah, it's sort of piggybacking off of what Gerard said. I'm not sure what I can say. So, but I mean, I will say the attention to detail as far as like the art side, the stuff that, I mean, as programmers, we obviously have access to that stuff. The art assets that have been produced for it are awesome. We have some really great references. Again, I'm not sure what I can say, but certain movies are obviously inspirational for us, the kind of look and feel that we're going for. So, yeah, I hope that answers that.
Yeah. And anything that gives the community something to salivate over is generally a good answer. And I think you got there.
Yeah, I guess if I had to add one thing onto that would be, it should be visible as part of the like sort of reverse engineering that people like, because I guess if it's already out there, it's all right. But something that is already public, and I can say that will be expanded upon, is we have certain systems in place for like different arteries and things like that, which is actually currently a part of the game. Some people have seen if you shoot people in a certain spot, especially with certain ammunition, that might cause like a bleed out event, that sort of thing. And we definitely want to like keep going in that direction. These sort of unique interactions that can happen depending on what kit you use and like how you actually operate, like where do you shoot, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, seeing some of that test footage that when Will's been working on things has been really awesome. He just kind of go on a tangent to try something, and then you see how it turned out. It's looking pretty sick.
It's real media, and I can't wait until we can share some of the videos of it. And I guess piggybacking off the question of improving in-game systems, we can ask Zach to talk about the work him and Quantum have been doing with the new sound occlusion system for the game.
Oh man. So so like full disclosure, Quantum has been working on this since probably November, maybe even earlier than that of last year. And I'll also just kind of like squash any, I guess, confusion about the system. So this is really going to optimize how sounds are played, and I can kind of talk a little bit about sound optimization, all that stuff. But essentially, this is going to be only for the audio right now. We are kind of looking at how we can get the AI to plug into the sound distances and all that. And for the folks who don't know, so what this quantum sound system is basically where the player is, there's going to be a sound that plays in another room. We now have all of these different zones across the maps. And if a sound plays in a different zone than where the player is, it's actually going to kind of physically track that distance and that path. And we're going to use that instead of like just the direct path from the player to the sound. So you get a much better kind of muffling effect and a much better kind of distance, I guess, understanding of audio. But yeah, overall, it's just been a pretty crazy few months getting it all figured out. And there's not going to be any kind of like sound propagation just yet, which is how the sound kind of physically bends around corners and stuff like that, like physically changing position. Just because we want to make sure that if we do implement something like that, it's not going to be confusing, and it's not going to be like, oh, I heard the sound from like the door behind me, but the guy was coming in front of me. So we don't want any of those situations to happen. But rest assured, it's still being worked on like every day. We're poking away at this. And yeah, I guess one other note with it is just the fact that it optimizes basically all the sounds that play right now. So and I know Ali actually did a bunch of sound optimization as well. So there's pretty much like an all hands on deck with coding, looking at audio. How do we optimize this? How do we make sure all the sounds play and it's not confusing and it works really well? But yeah, it's going to be exciting when this patch finally gets out there. I mean, there's going to be. I hope some CPUs aren't sweating as much with the audio stuff.
Also, shout out to Quantum, dude. Because for those who don't know, I actually worked with him on a modding project before I got picked up by Void. That's just a little fun fact I wanted to throw out there because like he's a really cool, great guy. I worked with him and then I got picked up by Void, and then later somebody approached and said, "Hey, we're looking into this person." I was like, "Oh yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome." It's glad to see him as part of the family now.
Like Quantum, and just for like I guess reference, he's the kind of guy who I know, like Ali asked him like how optimized is this system, and he's referring to two things in like nanoseconds, and it's just like I can't even wrap my brain around that, and that's like the level that he's working at. So I just I only have good things to say about Quantum. He's a genius.
He's plugged in the Matrix. Yeah, he made that camera mod for those who don't know as well. He made the first camera mod that we had where you were able to place lights and stuff. So he's very, very, very creative with the things he makes.
Oh yeah, one of the things that's very interesting to watch with Void is watching watching some of the most prolific and most capable participants in the modding community like become integrated into Void, and then watching them kind of flourish, having access to all this information, and it is frankly just incredible.
I remember starting to reverse engineer a lot of our things, because there was a lot of people who wanted to make things happen, and I was one of those. I was like, hey, I want to figure all this out. So I remember hitting a lot of hiccups and a lot of speed bumps, so to say. and eventually when I got like making out like all these different models and things that I ended up posting. And here's a fun fact of how I got into like Void, right? Like I got basically I was in the gym and I got hit up by somebody on Discord. I'm thinking it's looking to get like some form of freelance job or something, and this person's telling me, hey, yeah, sorry, I've had a couple meetings, this and that. I don't know where I added you from. Would you like to, you have a job? Do you want to work in something and stuff? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. I'm thinking this is freelance stuff, right? And this person keeps telling me, he's like, yeah, we're trying to make this happen, and we're trying to make this model, and they're telling me, hey, this is going straight in the game, but in my brain, I'm just thinking of it as a mod, and I was like, how no, I was like, wait, you can't do that. It's just you simply can't because you need access to this. It's like, oh no, yeah, no, I'm the CEO of the company. I'm Sterl. So I was like, why don't you start with that, man? That's a funny thing.
Yeah, like it's just really freaking cool. All right.
Julio's
So,
doing something.
what you got?
He's snowboarding right now.
Yeah.
So, moving quickly on. A question for DeadPixel from SnowCow. Do you are you able to share any of the plans or kind of ideas you have for improving the in-station loadout UI?
Yeah, that's actually one thing that's happening right now is there's a big fat refactor going on to the back end loadout stuff to really streamline it, make it more optimized, and hopefully allow us to address some usability things and reevaluate certain aspects of it. But yeah, I've always there are just a few, 2 or 3 real important screens in this entire game that I've really put the most attention to, and the loadout is and has been the top of that list. It is the game. You're not going to do much if you can't fight and you don't have your gear. So that's definitely something that's going to constantly getting as much love as I can give to it, and until I feel like it's perfect. So there's a lot going into that. There's a lot of plans for what we want to allow people to do with the attachment system to give them a little bit more freedom and to make it more intuitive, as well as we have customization aspects that are down the road that we want to be able to seamlessly account for weapons and character and everything like that. And it's a constantly evolving beast, and it's actually Kilowatt is he's my guy. He's been the UI programmer and for all intents and purposes for me, and he's really leading the refactor on that. We've got a lot of really cool ideas to man. Once it's done, it should load faster. It should do everything better, and hopefully do some cool things with presets. And if all things go well, make it easy for people to share those presets.
Oh, so room shareable presets then?
Yeah, I mean it's something that maybe we can expand on a little bit more. But one of the things we hope to do, and obviously this is I like to share just things that we want to shoot for, and is the ability to easily share some kind of string or something along those lines that allow people to share the presets for anything from a weapon all the way to an entire loadout. So you can just give send Discord, send somebody a string, and then they can put it in, and they'll have that configuration just load up easily enough.
All right, that sounds clean.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It was Will's idea, and I really hope we can effectively implement that with the entire preset plan that we have.
Yep.
Oh,
Just finding that out, that's awesome.
Surprise!
An experience for a lot of people. All right, so for Mr. Mark again, coming from came from Discord user Sonic. So for two of the maps in the mapping contest recently actually have Olympus Theater. At the start of it has a scripted event where a bunch of civilians run out of the theater because it's an active shooting situation. And in Sanctum's Deceit, the first place winner, there's actually a helicopter that has a spotlight circling the building. Is there thoughts about adding anything like that to the vanilla Ready or Not maps, where just kind of there's something happening in the background, or as you're approaching, or as you do a thing?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. It's something that we've been wanting to do for a while now. A lot of kind of where we're at in the project from an art side at the moment is really trying to get in as much sort of like storytelling and theatricality and really just kind of like pushing the feels of the level, as it were. And it is definitely something that we've been experimenting with. And for the most part, we're just trying to figure out what sort of the best way of doing this is going to be. For the most part, it's like we've got all these different ideas, and there's no one right way of making a game. We've got like 10 or 15 different options of kind of doing it. So a lot of, we're just trying to like nail down how we want to approach this, but it's definitely something that we want to do. Because I think it's definitely going to, as a player, it's going to just make it feel so much more involved and so much more engaged, and that's really what we want. You're starting a level and you're bursting out the back of the bear cart, or hypothetically speaking, any number of scenarios that get you into the level and ready for action. It's all part of that sort of like telling a story, which we want to do, and really just make the players feel like they're the SWAT in the scene, and I think it is a little bit disjointed, just kind of like waking up Skyrim style, like just in the street. So I think it's definitely going to give the levels a lot more context to like how you get there. And with that in mind, we can do all kinds of fun stuff. One thing that we don't want to happen, because this could become a very slippery slope quite quickly, is it balloons out of proportion, and then suddenly our development time goes through the roof. Like, if suddenly we're doing crazy cinematics and there's, all these people bursting out of the hotel and stuff like that, like, that adds just inherently quite a lot of dev time. So, one of the biggest problems that we're facing at the moment is, like, how can we get the most impact and it be as effective as we want it to be without bloating the development time that it takes to make this stuff as well. Yeah.
Alrighty. So it's sort of like a kind of a cost benefit decision you need to make while you're putting everything together.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So like everything in game dev is a balance one way or another. You spend 2 weeks on something and it could look amazing, or you spend 2 days on something and it probably won't look as amazing. But there's not saying that just simply changing your ideas to fit the criteria and fit within your budget. Honestly, I personally find that sometimes limitations breeds more creativity. So like I really want to just strike that balance of it being amazing and feeling amazing, and it feeling as cinematic as we can get it there, and giving us enough time to obviously make as many maps as we want as well. Because don't forget, like, the more maps we make, the more of this kind of stuff that we have to support as well, and so forth and so on down the line. Oh, have we lost Kaminsky again?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow, I'm
back.
having so many issues. Gee, bus. Alrighty. So we'll move on to once again to Mr. Gerard with you mentioned the PASTG helmets, so we'll scooch over that. I actually did have a question from that I'm actually meaning to ask you. Is there anything, like, if you could get your hands on absolutely anything, what would you want to scan and put into Ready or Not?
Boy, you open a can of worms out there. Look, man, there's needs and wants. I think we all agree. Everyone that's out there that knows gear and stuff, we all agree that it'd be amazing to have those damn GPMVGs. But being realistic, you don't want to have like like a Tesla worth of money in your face and then drop them, because I've seen that happen to the Ambistens, which are the ones before that. But I honestly, I think we already have the stuff that I would want to more or less integrate. So it's just a matter of time that we'll slowly show it to people. Well, once that's ready, and just actually circle into like the question of the PSTG helmet. Um, I love SWAT. I love SWAT 4. All those old school games. It's in my belief that yes, that'd be something that would be missing if we don't make some form of a tribute to that. So I can't confirm nor deny anything, but I love that. So bet.
So y'all heard it here first, folks. Gerard's scanning in retro SWAT gear. Disclaimer: this is not an actual confirmation of retro SWAT gear.
Fired.
You can't fire me. I quit. Alrighty. Actually, I don't know who this would be a good question for. I think both DeadPixel and Kilo might have something, some input on that. From the user Sig. Actually, I think this would probably be more of a proper Sterling question, but we can get input from everybody. Would there be customizable mission parameters at any point in the future?
Yeah, that's one that's going to have to come down from like higher level, game design for the sense of just for the sake of scope creep. But I don't imagine anybody would be opposed to it for freeform missions and stuff. It's definitely possible from the UI side of things, but it's definitely going to be one of those. It's just a balance of resources to implement it. For all we know, it could be one of those a post-release kind of addition. But I think it's a really cool idea, and I'd be down for it.
Yeah, I could certainly say that I actually really like that idea. As far as like any specific plans, I don't think we have any. But I think some of the stuff that we do have going on behind the scenes would definitely enable us more flexibility in that regard. So we're always trying to improve things, and if we think that's something that we can get in, then yeah, we'll absolutely do it.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I was gonna say you go ahead. You guys finish up your point.
I was good. It could be one of those things where as we work through stuff and we just find that option's just sitting there on the table for us to quickly implement. It's there's always those features that we just slide in. We find that it's possible and we just see if we could do it, and the next thing you know, it's part of the game.
By the way,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh yeah, by the way, like 3 commits ago, we have this now, because we were just experimenting with it, and it'll just it'd be as simple as like flipping a switch to make it actually go live. So it does seem like it could be one of those things once systems really are at a certain point that are being worked on. So I definitely think that's a possibility, but nothing planned, nothing official.
And I was just gonna say, on top of like the game parameters being customizable, I know a few folks were asking, can we kind of pick the soundtrack per each map? And I mean, again, that'll be like post-launch kind of stuff to work through, because every soundtrack is very catered to each map, or at least all the stuff that is being developed currently is going to be very catered. There's specific cues, there's specific areas where different parameters go up and down. That's very like oriented for that one track. But I wouldn't say it's impossible. It's just a matter of kind of going through each map and kind of editing a bunch of those parameters around and making sure it all kind of plays nice. But that would also be something that on the sound side anyway would be fun to make customizable, but nothing official. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's definitely a disclaimer that we're all shouting right now.
This is the wish list question, not quite the this is coming question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just like that's not a bad idea.
All right. I guess we'll double up on questions a little bit to try and try and get some more info. I guess this would also work for everybody. How does Void go about optimizing their levels? Is it pre-computed? Is everything baked in, or is there another way that it's handled?
Don't we all just go, Mark?
Yeah, I get that a lot. Yeah, like one of the things that I'm actually really quite passionate about is actually like optimization in general. I don't necessarily know why, and especially as an artist, it's quite rare for me to be interested in it. But I'm very much of the belief, like, if you don't have a game that performs well, you haven't really made a game. So there's no point just like throwing everything at it and it looks amazing, because if it doesn't run, it doesn't run. You've not made a game. So it's definitely one of those things that I know that like me personally, I'm always a little bit like performance conscious as I'm making the levels, and I think a lot of this just comes from experience. Like I've made so many games at this point, and I've been using Unreal now for nearly sort of like 10 years. I'm very, very familiar with like the do's and don'ts and where sort of like some of the caveats come from. So a lot of it is really just being like, oh yeah, you know, this is not my first rodeo. I know that if I do these series of things, probably going to have a bit of a bad time, so I'll, again, using those limitations to think of creative ways around it, and just kind of working with those limitations. I'm actually doing a lot of optimization at the moment, trying to get some of the performance back where we've been lacking, and to be brutally honest, like a lot of it is literally just a case of, we've been trying to make the levels and get them out the door. We've not really had that sort of like official pass yet of just going through and being, quite critical with do these textures need to be this size, for instance, and I do find that quite often. Like if I take like a 2K texture, raise it down to a 1K texture, it's like, visually speaking, it actually hasn't changed, and that's quite an easy optimization to do. That solves a lot of the memory issues, just going through some of the textures and being a bit critical with, does it change it? And if it gets worse, then I won't raise it down. But for the most part, I want to keep that quality, and I also want it to run well. I've also been doing custom pass on some of the LOD stuff. So again, that was one of the things where we just kind of threw stuff in, and I know Unreal's got like a lot of like pretty good tools built in for lodding, and that stuff helps an absolute ton. But again, and I've said this in the past as well, half of what sort of experience is in the industry is not necessarily how to make games, it's how not to make games. So it's kind of like knowing how, you can put all these things in and they'll work absolutely perfect every single time, apart from this one exception. And it's knowing how to spot that one exception and kind of deal with it in that scenario as well. So yeah, I've been doing a ton of optimization with that stuff, lodding, being texture conscious. Also, with our lighting pass that we did not too long ago, again, we learned an absolute ton, and we upskilled our lighting not only from a visual standpoint within the game itself, but also we learned a lot about how to actually light things properly. It's also one of those things I'm super passionate about, but I can get it to a certain point, and that's where a dedicated lighting artist would like. I would ask them questions, and it'd be like, oh yeah, so this is what gives it that extra 20% of amazingness that kind of, goes on top of it. And, getting someone who's just like really specifically good at their job helps a ton in knowing where the pitfalls are. So on top of doing all that lighting to try and make it look as good as we could, I also took that into consideration when it came to the performance as well. So just being a bit aware of what lights are shadow casters, for instance, because shadows are generally very expensive in games. That's why we leaned quite heavily into the pre-baked system. Not only does the pre-baked lighting give you just inherently better lighting results, but then it also allows us to do various other clever tricks around shadows being cast using stationary lights instead of movable lights and various things like that. So yeah, just really just focusing in and just kind of like paying attention to where the pitfalls are. Also, yeah, one other thing as well is like a lot of our content, not all of our content by any means, but when we first started, we didn't necessarily have the systems that we have now when it comes to like getting all of our assets made. So I try my absolute best to outsource and create basically everything that we can for Ready or Not ourselves. I really, really want our game to be as handmade by us as possible. Mostly for that quality stamp from a visual standpoint, but also, again, because I know then it locks in that performance as well. And some of the stuff that we had from the Unreal Marketplace, for instance, were really, really expensive. They looked incredible, but they were just really... I don't want to say poorly made, that's the wrong context, but they were created for a game that wasn't ours, put it that way. So just going through and being like, okay, that's a problem asset. Let's see what we can do with that. Do we replace it? Do we, do we just take it out and swap it out with something else? Maybe we want to take this time to recreate it in our version of it. Yeah, I think that covers everything.
Yeah, that's a lot of information that we're able to pass on and just kind of propagate. And I guess a related question is, does the optimization have a direct impact on the game's file size?
Absolutely it does. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely it does. So, again, one of the reasons why we also wanted to do this, and this is mostly just a little bit behind the scenes on a day-to-day sort of dev stuff as well. Obviously, we have a lot of content, and we're all over the world. And, I turn the PC on in the morning, and the first thing I do is I get latest of our repositories. So anyone who's done any work checks the stuff into our local repository. We're using Perforce. And basically, everyone then just pulls the latest version of the files. Everyone's up to date with what everyone's been working on. And you check it in and check it out and various things like that. Because we've got so much content, and especially stuff like textures are genuinely quite big when it comes to file sizes. And the reason for that is because you can only compress a pixel down to a certain level. So, it's usually the case of, you can pretty accurately not guess, but sort of like know if I have a 2K normal map, for instance, it's probably going to be about 10 megabyte. If I have a 4K diffuse, it's probably going to be about 20 megabyte or something like that. So a lot of these optimizations is definitely like lowering textures is a working example. Suddenly all that memory that would have been there is no longer there. And that's actually working out for us, not just on a disk size in the game. So, when it goes onto Steam, the file size will drop as well. But also doing this pass now, this optimization pass, it's also really helping us out on a day-to-day basis as well. Because if I'm changing textures and I'm pushing them back up into the repository, that means everyone else has to pull those files back down as well. So it's generally just good house cleaning, and it's helping us speed up our pulls from the repository as well as lowering the game size as well.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, you definitely know you're in for a long one whenever you see that, like, in one of the change lists, you got lighting pass, and you're just like, oh, all right.
Yeah,
I'm going to go make breakfast. And
no, for sure. I must admit, I am genuinely the worst person for this. And I think that is just kind of the nature of the art side of it. So, for instance, if we have like a pack from outsource and it comes back, we're talking maybe sort of like 15 to 20 assets. Each of them has 3 textures. And we might get 3 or 4 asset packs back at a time. Not to mention all the stuff then that I'm working on inside the level as well, all the materials and blah, 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 blah. Like, I think I probably check in more files than anyone else on the project, almost on a daily basis. So I'm quite bad at making everyone else's mornings quite long, I must admit.
I cry.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, the
Uh,
more.
and
Sorry, go on.
no, I was gonna say, just bouncing off of what Mark was saying about file size too. We also did some optimization with the voice lines. I think they were at like 5 gigs in total, and then we converted them down to OGG, and Ali figured out some kind of way to automate that. And I mean, the reason they were like WAV files in the first place is because when it gets sent over to Fmod doesn't have to do any extra legwork to kind of unpack it. But honestly, there's not enough voices that play at the same time to like call it a massive CPU hit in the first place. So switch it to OGG. It's like 300 megabytes now. Bob's your uncle. You know, no one's crying about the voices taking up like 10 gigs of their hard drive anymore. So everyone's happy.
Yeah, textures and sound. That's like the bulk of what when you start having large games. It's textures and sounds.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. For anyone interested, in terms of like, this is one of the biggest things that Unreal 5 is trying to get around, where they, with the whole nanite, the new nanite system, this is why they leaned into doing tons and tons and tons of polygons rather than. I mean, I know textures is a little bit old school at this point anyway, because you don't get the silhouettes, you don't get, the actual 3D geometry. But the general rule with the new UE5 system is throw as much geometry as you want at it, but keep your textures quite low resolution, because, rather than having the normal maps, you would actually just put the polygons in there to represent the detail. Because the polygons actually get crunched down more than a pixel does because of vectors and vertices and various bits of math that I quite frankly do not understand. Point is, you can crunch them down and compress them further than the textile density. So yeah, that's kind of like why we're transitioning into more geometry and less textures with UE5.
So you're saying I can put in my full sculpture of anything in there?
In essence,
no.
yeah, in essence.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Before anyone goes UE5 when. So we're too far into the project at the moment, and like I said, UE5, whilst it has all these bells and whistles of cool new things, take it from me. Using UE4 as a perfect example, UE4 didn't become stable for developers until about 4.19. Version 4.19, and so far UE5 is on 1.2 or something, 5.1.2. So it's got a long way to go before it's really ready for game production. And also, UE4 just has a ton of stuff that really works in our favor, like the bake lighting system and stuff like that.
Actually, I think that's a amazing segue to talk about something that's been in a lot of gaming news recently. Um, what's your guys' opinion on Unrecord?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an amazing tech demo. Like, it looks great. Kudos to the artist who made it. I've got no faults with that. It looks great. For me personally, it's one of those things where, because I'm saying this because I'm a user as well. I think a lot of us are. We can see that it's basically just the Quixel Megascans library for the most part. And that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel it does detract a little bit away from the sort of like creatorship and gosh, how do I quite like, if put it this way, if every single game that came out was just the Quixel Megascans, we would get a little bit bored with looking at the same stuff left, right, and center. So whilst it is an amazing like demonstration of using it to its absolute fullest, there's a part of me that's just like, I've seen that barrel, and I've seen that thing because I use it. It's an our game, and it's on 100 other games as well. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that evolves and where they would take that to the next level to make it as unique and custom to the game that that they want to tell. I'm curious to see how they would handle, say, an environment that isn't on the Quixel library. But then again, maybe that's the strength. Maybe that's, again, using the limitations that they have and just being okay. Well, we're gonna use the resources that we actually do have, and make a game around that. Nothing wrong with it by any means.
Yeah, they do some really when you outside of that aspect of the game, it does some really cool stuff. The procedural animation, the camera effects, the perspective of being this watching pre-recorded footage, but you're also controlling it. Movement system, the sprint chase that was happened. There was a lot of really awesome things. They had a dialogue interrogation. I'm really curious to see what more of the game will be like with those features.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a really awesome concept. Like I said, it is a really awesome looking thing. And yeah, I think there's definitely sort of a little vision of the future there. Of look at what we can do, and if this is I know every generation of consoles go, this is the most realistic thing. But there's always something more, and it's awesome to see that evolution happening. So yeah, maybe that's the next stage in gaming.
Yeah, it does a really good job at doing what I'd like to call perceived or documented realism by having the effects that it has in the camera. It evokes the sense that you're watching something that has been recorded in real life, and there's a lot of it takes an attention to detail to really get that, to evoke that kind of sense or an emotion out of people. That I give them props for that. It's something a lot of game
100%.
developers we strive for. We want to make a game as a lot of times it's on the Ready or Not or Insurgency and stuff like that. It's about being a visceral and immersive experience, and every generation kind of takes a new leap at that with camera movements and body movements and fluidity, and it's pretty cool. I want to see what it leads to, and not just of itself, but what it inspires other people to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, when I saw that demo, the first thing that I just immediately thought of was, I want to see this in the context of a horror game.
Yeah, I pretty much said the same thing. Yeah,
I think it fit. Yeah, a horror game, or even a game like SWAT or Arma or something along those lines, with those kinds of that kind of immersion and then movement and everything like that. It sort of also gives a glimpse for people that aren't able to play in VR from motion sickness reasons. There's something to having those kind of movements that break that sense that you're just a camera strapped to a rigid body.
See, the entire thing that worries me about kind of unrecord is, I am going to aggressively date myself. Who here remembers the game Trespasser?
I know what you're talking about.
Was that the Sony? Was that the blue box? Am I remembering this right?
Nope.
Oh wait, no.
It was
a dinosaur, wasn't it?
Yep, the Jurassic.
Oh, you mean the dinosaur?
FPS.
Oh hell yeah!
The super wonky. It also had sort of a chess camp feature.
If I remember correctly, and again I might be wrong on this, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that the game that when you look down, you had a heart tattoo on your breast?
Yeah,
and
the more for your health,
the more damage you took. Yeah.
And the aiming in the tech demo that was shown off reminded me of Trespasser, and I remembered how incredibly frustrating it was, and it just gave me nightmares watching that footage.
It literally shoots where you're pointing, right? I know there's another indie game from the folks who made Receiver. They made a game called Black Shades, and it's where you're aiming is literally where you're aiming. It's very kind of visceral that way.
I've never seen this. I'm seeing this now. That's crazy.
Yeah. Wait. Which one? Black Shades or Trespasser?
Trespassers.
Trespasser and Black Shades.
Wild.
They both do that kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but here we go. It's okay, let's take that tech demo and let's put dinosaurs in it or something like that. It's got so much potential. And I love Dino Crisis and stuff like that. So I'm really really keen for that sort of next level of gaming where it looks like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like every generation, it's just become like, if you go back and you try to play a game like the original Counter Strike or Day of Defeat or something like that, now it feels extremely limited. It feels rigid. You feel you're on rails, stuff like that. Every generation, you've had these more uh, immersive experiences with the way that your character moves, the camera moves, you aim, you do stuff. I had, like you're saying, like I'm curious to see. It's not like Unrecord is really cool, not just because it's not from its own setting, but what they're doing in that setting, like what they're doing with the camera and the gunplay and the movement stuff. That when that chase broke out down the hallway, like that felt great, and you're just
Yeah.
like that would. I want to feel that in any situation, in a horror game, like in a dinosaur game, anything like that. I don't care. I want to feel that
Yeah, that
motion.
would
I
be
So,
want to
good.
experience it. I want to press a button and make that happen and feel
oh yeah, for
myself in
sure.
it.
I mean, I suppose it does raise a question as well. Like looking at that demo, and we're all game developers, and we've all seen so many trailers that promises one thing and delivers something completely else. There is that part of my brain that questions it. It's like how much of this was actual gameplay, and how much of it was, say, for instance, scripted or whatever the case may be, to give the illusion of the gameplay stuff. And especially like with the gun shooting, where like, as we were saying, like there's no crosshair, and it looked like it was just all over the place. Like
Yeah.
how does one play that? Like,
Yeah,
is there some mechanics there that I'm just not seeing? Like, where it's kind of got like a rough auto lock on, and you just kind of vaguely aim it in the direction and trust it to work. Or because I imagine that would be incredibly frustrating if it is just aiming wherever this guy's wobbly arm's going, sort of thing. So I do wonder, but it looks great, and I think it's definitely got some fun elements to it. I guess I'm confused by it more than anything. Like I want to know how it
yeah.
feels
It
to play it
raises
rather than just watching it.
as a developer, it raises a lot more questions. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I mean, like you're saying, when you're aiming, it because it has this feeling like you're in VR. But in VR, you have your arm, you know what you're doing with it, you have muscle memory. There is a disconnect between what you're doing on a a screen with a mouse. You don't have that kind of control. So what are they doing to keep that from being a frustrating user experience? But there is a video of him playing it in editor to prove that it's real, and he's just shooting in random places. So um, it's a lot of procedural animation stuff. It looks like. I'm curious at how accurate it is.
Well, I mean,
I
I think it's probably worth even almost asking everyone in the audience as well. It's like anyone who is familiar with the unrecorded thing. Is there anything in that demo that you would potentially like to see in Ready or Not, or like is there anything that you think is good, think is bad? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm just curious to know what the what the audio situation is going to be like, if they're going to go with because I mean we've gone through the gauntlet with all these third party plugins, Steam Audio, Resonance Audio, Oculus, and I mean at the end of the day, it always just works out better when we went with just the vanilla, I guess, kind of sound elements, and then we just tweaked it or made our own. So I'm just really curious to know if they're going to go in a direction like that. I don't know what kind of stuff UE5 has in terms of audio that'll really like push it over the edge. Because I know right now, especially a lot of the third-party tools on UE5, I've been keeping an eye on the forums, and it looks like they're a little unstable. So I would really like to know what they've got cooking under the hood.
All right. And I guess as we're coming up on our last half an hour, I can ask you guys about the mapping contest that wrapped up recently. Did all you guys get a chance to try at least some of the entrants?
I'm just
Uh,
gonna say really quickly. I'm gonna shout out Kiwi here because there's one thing that he did with audio that I think I heard right. And it's how I think he has certain sounds when you're going inside. They actually start to kind of bend with the door. It's like kind of physically modeling that propagation in like limited aspects. But he's working with the tools that he's got. I gotta shout that out, man. That was crazy. That was really impressed with that.
All right. Anybody else got anything else to add? Any particular maps you'd like to call out? We had, surprising nobody, we had Sanctum's Deceit in first place, which was an incredible collaboration.
I'm a little biased. I know Seth. He's great.
Then we had we had Kiwi's Operation Falcon Hour Airport, whichever name you decide to call it, and then Stan's hot coffee map. Those were our top 3 in descending order.
One of the things I will say about all these maps and general is like I shocked at the amount of creativity that they come out with and the things and features they design out of just reverse engineering a lot of the stuff. I've seen some things in these maps that I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. I think it's Sanctum's Deceit had like vents. Like you could actually unscrew vents. And you can toss like a flashbang through it and it'll like go across like the map and stuff. That was like, what the hell? It's very impressive.
Frankly bonkers.
Yeah, I definitely am always sort of impressed by like what the modding community is able to kind of like figure out, and in cases like the mapping, you know, even a lot of the mapping stuff, even though it's sort of original content, involves a lot of reverse engineering of the game systems. And I don't know. There's a lot I could talk about with modding, especially behind the scenes, if that would be interesting.
Always mad respect for modders. I think I would be surprised if almost every single one of us came from some modding background that led into the games that we're working on now. It's really awesome to see what people can do with these things that exist and matching the quality of the first party content or exceeding it sometimes even.
The one thing I will mention is the last time I had talked to developers about modding in general.
Yeah. I guess if it's all right, I'll speak on a little bit. As far as modding stuff goes, it's been kind of a personal effort to ensure all the work, like especially the new stuff that we've been developing, is even more modder friendly. So I haven't really been able to talk to anyone in particular about this, but I'd love to eventually reach out to some of the modding people, see exactly what they're looking for. As far as like what is our talked about, like the customization stuff that Gerard's working on, that stuff, as far as the back end goes, is being developed with modding heavily in mind. If anyone has got through the technical knowledge and, for example, see how like the weapons are done right now, they're kind of rigid in the sense that like you're gonna have to replace existing weapons.
Okay. Ooh, now we're good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, keep
but for things like customization, we'd really like it to make it so that the content is more like open. Like you don't have to replace existing things; you can add things, and just generally making the
modder's life easier in a way.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when
usually what makes that as well.
Usually, what's going to make a modder's life easier is going to make the game designer's life easier.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something we found too, is that like sort of working on the stuff has ended up kind of doing like leaps and bounds as far as like, well, making our own jobs easier. So
I guess the one thing that is the most interesting thing to talk about when it comes to modding is the last developer I talked to about modding in general was had the I think the way they described it. It's really interesting watching modders work because the development team knows what a system and an engine should be able to do. So they know, a developer will operate exactly within those bounds and, do what they can to produce within those bounds. Whereas modder goes, okay, how can I bend this and break this to make it do what I want? And that's where you get that that sort of, I think the word would be able to say different design philosophy between modders and developers.
I think you nailed that on the head, because like when I got brought in, like not knowing a lot of the backdrop and a lot of the technicalities and limitations, you just don't hinge yourself on those things when you're thinking about something. And Mark knows this, and like Killowat knows this. I'm constantly bouncing out questions like, "Yo, I have this great idea. What if we do this? I don't even know anything." And then Mark goes like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, this can be done. This can't be done. Oh, okay, perfect." Because there's just so many things that you have to take into consideration when it comes down to just being creative. That yeah, I can see also like why that like modders end up making like crazy things out because they're just not constrained about like, hey, this is gonna be like, I don't know, performance heavy or whatever. Like there was like, I think it was like one map that you could even pick like the spawn areas and all these things. It was just so crazy.
Yep, that was Sanctum.
Yeah, you just come out with like the craziest thoughts when you're not even considering like the side effects, I guess, on the performance side.
And actually,
I wouldn't even go.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's crazy because like I love seeing these individual maps, like the Sanctus Research, and all the other ones as well. Like really, really incredible stuff. And it is always really interesting to me, like what can be done when you're not having to take the entire project into consideration. So like even the idea of like introducing mechanics like different spawn points or opening the vent, throwing grenades down. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's absolutely incredible, and having this playground to do all these things in like an isolated space, it really does show like what our potential is of adding more stuff to the game is as well. But there is always that thing that just we have to keep coming back to, which is we've already got like 3/4 of a project. How do we suddenly start implementing all those things within our game now so it makes sense and so it works? So like a lot of our maps, for instance, are designed very much around just having one spawn point. It's like, well, we could probably figure out a way to have multiple spawn points, but there's going to be a lot of work. Even if half of them are fine, there's still like a lot of work on top of that to try and get the rest of them working fine. And a lot of it just comes from we were evolving the game as we were going. We didn't have a set plan to just do everything, because no game does everything. That's the thing. It's like we're learning as we're going, and we're figuring out what works and what doesn't work. But all this stuff that we are taking on board, and who knows what the future's going to hold.
Alrighty, and I guess as we're coming up on the end of our hour, I will I'll hold one question for the very end. But is there anything in particular you guys like to kind of address to the community or kind of let them know, anything like that?
You guys are all awesome for showing up today. That's all I'm gonna say. We really appreciate it, because I know there's been like we peaked at what, like 250 today, and then like there's been a steady 150, 130. So for those that stuck around and listened to all the cues, like that means a lot to us.
Yep, the view count on the NDA AMA is currently 18,000, so I expect this one to kind of hit those numbers as well. So a lot of people are going to hear what you guys said.
Awesome.
Take
Humbling.
that how you will.
No, definitely. And yeah, just to echo what everyone's been saying. Thank you so much, everyone, for turning up. It's genuinely really amazing to have such support. It really is.
We love all.
All right, if you guys are going to keep it short and sweet, then I guess the final question is, update when?
We're supposed to release
Soon.
those.
TM.
Right
now.
Oops, we kind of forgot to drop the update. Sorry.
You guys didn't download it? Yeah.
All right. So I guess I'll leave this decision up to you guys. Would you guys like to pick some extra questions out of chat, or would you like to sign off here and enjoy the rest of your weekend?
I'd love to pick a question out of the chat, as long as it's nothing that's gonna get me shot overboard.
All right,
Yeah.
go digging. We got some time.
Let's see. I have seen this one a few times. Will flashlights be added to helmets, since I saw it being used in the trailer? Well, technically, the flashlights are already on the helmet per se. They're just like a props. I mean, it's how to place that thing, but would be very interesting or something to think of in the future, perhaps. But nothing could be said or settled yet. But I mean, I come from like the realistic background in that sense, and I'd love to have as many crazy things as I could integrate in the game. But you also have to think about how it affects like the whole gameplay, what's already there or not. So you got to take that with a little grain of salt, you know.
Yeah.
If I was to pick out a question from one of the things that we got, basically we've been asked if we're going to get any more sort of like day-to-day maps. So this is something that we've heard quite a lot as well. Like people just want, less, shall we say, extravagant maps. So we have a lot of crazy scenarios, a lot of crazy worlds, and a lot of that comes from, we want to make a rich and interesting world. And to answer that kind of question, yes, absolutely. We have heard what everyone's been saying about how like a simple house raid is just a small contained environment, but just done really, really well. Absolutely. So it's something that we are definitely keen to do a lot more of as well, and also keep on doing the bigger, more flamboyant maps as well. So yeah, a little bit of everything for everyone.
Because there are a handful of maps that absolutely nobody outside of Void knows is coming yet. So those will be nice and interesting to show off.
100%, yeah, 100%, and we have a lot of plans in the works as well for future stuff.
Yeah, we have always have a wish list. Like I think every department has like the wish list longer than time would even allow. So I'm sure whatever is there by 1.0 or whatever is going to be there at some point. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, actually, I guess that's a pretty relevant question. Will there ever be a maps on like a bus or a plane, or those kind of be too small a scale for Ready or Not?
That is an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying no by any means. Again, mostly just because I don't want to potentially pigeonhole me into an answer. Because, like, at the end of the day, we're open to try all kinds of things. But it is definitely one of those things that, at the end of the day, the gameplay is king. So we have to keep that in mind. That sort of like real world spaces don't really allow a lot of flexibility when it comes to our game mechanics. So to use an example, stairs, like the actual width of a normal staircase in a house is an absolute nightmare for games. Doorways are usually pretty okay when it comes to first person stuff. But to take different games into consideration, like if you have a third person camera, like on Batman Arkham Knight or something like that, you'll notice all their doors are like 8-9 feet tall, because suddenly you've got this floating camera behind you and you've got to figure out a way of getting it down and through the door, sort of thing. So there's all kinds of like weird quirks that real world stuff just doesn't allow gameplay to happen, sort of thing. So we have to creatively get around those problems. But I mean, using that as an example, it's like, well, okay, one bus probably it's not going to make a level big enough, to make it interesting, kind of thing. But you could probably do something like a bus depot, or something like that. So like an airplane. Again, I think an airplane, as long as we had enough freedom in the actual design of the airplane to make it like a huge airplane. It was a film with Jodie Foster in it, Flight Plan or something like that, where it was like it was a huge airplane. And as long as we can have like aisleways big enough and enough space between the seats and things like that. But then it's like, okay, what about cover? Airplanes tend to be quite spacious, and you can look from one end to the other. It's like, oh, okay. So we'd have to be creative with that stuff. Is all I can say to that. So as long as we can make interesting gameplay and interesting visuals without it looking a little bit mental. Yeah, we're open to doing all kinds of fun stuff.
Alrighty. And do you? I guess this one would be specifically for Mark. Do you have anything you would like to share with the community at large about school?
Why did you put that on me? Um,
Well, you're the map guy, so you're the art guy, so you're taking care of a lot of that.
Yeah, so like I don't want to say too much again because I know that at the end of the day we don't want to spoil future announcements. We have a lot more stuff that needs doing now before we get to that level. Rest assured, it's still in the plan. It's still something that we're entertaining, and it's still something that we're actively trying to do something about. And we have some ideas, and just like everything in Ready or Not, we are treating the subject matter with the absolute most respect. I'm not saying. I honestly don't want to give anything away until it kind of comes out, sort of thing, because we've got surprises before we even get to that.
Yeah.
But with everything Ready or Not, we want to make our game, and we want to make the best game we can, and we are dealing with horrible subject matter, and we are going to shine a light on it. We're not going to celebrate it. We're going to, if anything, we're celebrating the heroes that have to deal with this stuff on a daily basis. The actual SWAT officers, like from Julio's story earlier, like what a harrowing tale, and how horrible it must be for the SWAT officers as well as the victims involved with that as well. So yeah, rest assured, like everything Ready or Not, we'll do it tastefully and we'll do it respectfully, and hopefully we'll have an awesome level that comes out of it.
All right. And that addresses a lot of the basically all the questions we had for you guys besides poor Sterling and his fashionable absence. Yeah, so it was great. It was great to have y'all here. Thank you for taking time both out of your schedules and fighting with time zones to show up for this AMA.
Hey man,
And,
no sweat at all. Well, thanks to you for the moderation, and thanks to the mods for keeping an eye on the chat, because I know it's we've got some rowdy folks, unfortunately, that like to take the fun out of the situation a little bit, but it's all good. It's awesome being able to chat with the community.
All right.
Definitely, always feels good to be touched and keep everybody posted, even though we're working so hard that sometimes we don't get to share too much. So we want to make it known that we've not forgotten you guys.
Not forgotten. Update soon. TM ?
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, we take it from me. We have a lot of really cool content coming up. So watch this space, as it were. And yeah, we hope you guys get excited about the new stuff when it comes out, as we have been excited making it as well.
All right. And with that, I will also extend thanks to all the community members and the mods as well who have come out, asked questions and kind of kept the peace. So thank you for showing up, and all y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Have a great weekend,
All right, guys,
everybody.
have a good weekend, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.